Hey guys, Jonas here. This is my first tutorial in Blender for YouTube, and I wanted to do this tutorial because I wanted to show you guys that you can get really cinematic and beautiful high quality renders within Blender and within the Blender Cycles X um, render engine. So I want to show you guys that you can create something that looks straight out of Cinema 4D or in Redshift or a Houdini, but it's actually done within Blender. I have a background in film and in photography, so I know that light and camera angles and movements and material is the most important part of a cinematic and highly realistic image. Yeah, let's do a cloth simulation and dynamic cloth simulation. And I'm going to record this live as I am, doing it. So there will be a lot of hiccups and trouble along the way. I'm sure, but I hope you bear over with me and yeah, that we try this out together and just have a good time. So within this tutorial, in the end, I hope you will be able to create a lot of different variations of a cloth simulation. Yeah, so let's just dive right into it. So I'm going to delete the default cube and yeah, go into the top view. This is not going to be like a really beginner friendly tutorial because I think it's more important to show you the simulations. But it's not that advanced with geometry nodes and stuff. That's something I will do for later tutorials. But if so this is quite simple, and I think you guys will manage. But yeah, just keep in mind that this is not totally beginner friendly, but not advanced at all. So yeah, but we're going to the top view. I'm going to add a plane that should be our cloth. I'm going to do a 5.5 meter. The size can really create trouble for you if you have it a bit too small or a bit too large. I don't know what it is with Blender, but the size really determines with the simulations what happens. So just try and experiment out. I will apply the scale and I will, add the cloth modifier. So to get more detail within our cloth, I'm going into the edit mode and I'm going to subdivide the cloth. This will create more details within this cloth, and I'm going to do 50 subdivisions. But you can also experiment, and depending on your computer's capacity, you might be able to do more or less for your scene. But this is fine for me. So I'm going back to the object mode, and when I play this animation, you can see that it falls down. This is because there is no colliding objects, and yeah, the weight is because of the gravity, it falls down. So first of all, we can go into the cloth simulation and go down to filled weights, and here I will turn off gravity. This will just keep the cloth simulations still in the air, but we still need it, we need to have it more dynamic, so we need to create some sort of dynamic movement in the cloth. And I'm going to do this with a force field and a turbulence force field. And when I play this, nothing happens, and this is because the default strength of the turbulence is set to 1, but I think it should really be set to 1000, so we can do that. And now when I play it, you should see that we have this sort of turbulent kind of thing within our cloth. But it's drifting away, and it's sort of like, it's difficult when we have a camera that we wanted to showcase this effect, that is keeps flying away. But if that's what you want, you can do it. But what I really want to do is I want to add another force field, and I will do a normal force and set it to a negative 500. This is also something you can play with the strength, but this will hopefully keep the cloth going into the center of this yeah, what's it called, like force. So yeah, and it's pretty crazy. And yeah, it stays in here with a lot of turbulence, and it's great. It's like a washing machine. But this is not the sort of effect that we want entirely. So I'll go back, and I will, first of all, it's a bit too fast, so I will dial down the speed a lot to 0.15, and you can see already it looks way more nice. So it's going down, and I'm also going to up the quality steps for the cloth, and I'm going to do a self collision to make it collide with itself, just making it way more realistic. I'm going to up the distance just to make it a bit more easy, and we don't really need that's like short distance. Um, and I'm going to do a 7 in quality. I always do 7 or 8. It's just giving me the best results, I think. And we're also going to do a shade smooth, or just a shade smooth. Actually, I experimented a bit with this, and it doesn't really matter for the final render when you're using sub divide services, but for this tutorial it just looks more nice in the viewport. So I'm going to add the subdivision service just to add, the bit more detail, and you can see you can up the scale and it will just be more, just a bit more nice, but we don't need it for the viewport, or it's lagging only for the render. I will set it up to 3. So for now, I think we can go out and we can, you know, actually just bake this sort of cloth thing out. I'll bake out just 150 of frames and here, and it should be relative quickly. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's quite quickly. This will, so I don't need to skip. But yeah, this is just to make it, just to view it better in the viewport and see what happens, and do it better for the final render also. So yeah, let's see what happens now. So we are back, and if we play this animation, we should see some nice turbulent cloth. Yes, it looks really nice, I think. I really like sort of slow and really kind of effect, something that you would see in a cloth. So yeah, it's more on, now that we have our cloud simulation, I think we should set up our camera for the first time. So I'm going to add a camera, and I'm going back here. I'm going to choose a focal length that can see the kind of details and really compress the image. So this is where my photography knowledge comes into hand. I think I will just go with the 120 long length here, right? Focal length. I will take it up a bit, and I will go into the camera property and rotate it down a bit, and just find a sort of nice angle. So right here, I think it's nice. I will actually move my camera. You should see what you kind of find out interesting angles and stuff, but it all depends on your specific scene. But I'll just try this one out, maybe up it to 1.5 here, and just get an interesting angle. So we should really set up some lighting also, and I'll just take a area light, set it to a rectangle, and do a bit larger one here, and I will take it all the way to the back and actually point it towards the camera, not all the way, but in the same direction, 90 degrees, minus 90 here. So this will actually create a backlight on our cloth, and this is a really cinematic way to light your image, something that you will see in a lot of movies where you have a lot of shadow in the front, and kind of like a depth in the image. So this is something that's, just put a backlight in all of your renders and it will be beautiful. But yeah, you know what I mean. I will also take it a bit out to the side. I think that's nice. And I will just turn it inwards here. And I will up the power to 100. So now if we go into the cycles render and go down to the color management, I will also set it to high contrast, because more contrast to this sort of image just gives it a bit more, detail, and just make it really, realistic looking. Something that you can also do is you can go into the filmic and you can choose false color, and this will really help you set up the light and you know, the temperature and not the temperature, but the amount of highlights and shadow, and what is blown out, and what is not blown out. So if you go down here, you can see we have this area up here that is really blown out, but there's not a lot of light in here. So we should fix this because we want to have layers of light. We only see a bit here and bit here, and when we know we need a bit more light up here, I think. So first of all, I want to add an HDMI. I just found one from HDI Haven, but you can use any HDI you think is fine. And you can see adding this creates a really a lot of light in the scene. And I'll just dial this one back all the way to 0.2. And the reason I do this is because I actually don't want it to affect the light that much. I just wanted to, give the shadow a bit more detail, and just, add that bit more color realism to this animation. But yeah, I will definitely get the light up a bit, and move it in a bit more, just to get a bit more of that spill out in the image. Maybe I can do this, and it's just tweaking around, and you should try for yourself what kind of works. And you can also go into the exposure setting and just dial down the exposure. This will not change the contrast, but will just take the overall exposure down, so you will still get the contrast, but not that highlighted. But yeah, let's see how this looks. Maybe 125 will be okay here. I know it's a bit blown out, but it should, like in real life, things will be blown out in the brightest parts often. So yeah, let's see how this looks. So we will go into the filmic, and already now we have a really nice, light coming from one of the side down. Because you have a cloth, it will often be translucent, so we should add a background that is, if we see through it, it won't, disturb our image. So I will just add a nice black background with a bit more roughness in it, and yeah, this will be, kind of the background for this cloth. It's just these small details that will in the end help with the realistic rendering. And we're only using one light here, so it's not that complicated. We're using an HDNI set to a very low value, and then an area light. So simple is often the way to go. But yeah, so now that we have this scene, you can see that this is really an animation that is really beautiful. Slow. You can make it more quickly if you go into the speed multiplier when it's not baked, and try out different things. And you can also try out with the difference of stiffness and damping, and they also have these sort of pre-rubber silk. They are all pretty fine. But yeah, you should experiment with yourself, and always try to remember to apply the scale to the cloth when you have not baked it. And then if it just doesn't work as you want, try to scale it up, the cloth. Sometimes that is that is the way to do it in Blender. And then yeah, just experiment with these different kind of force fills. You can also you can also use vertex maps on the cloth, and you can assign all the way down here the vertex. You can make them into a vertex group, so that the cloth is staying here, it's not moving here, and you will get like a sort of a flag effect. You can also put in an object with an collider modifier here, and then the cloth will wrap around it, and this is also something that you see a lot done in Cinema 4D, and yeah, these things. But yeah, today it's only just a dynamic cloth simulations we are going to do. Just a nice, beautiful one. Um, so yeah, um, so now that we have our sort of lighting and our sort of, you know, beautiful clothy dynamic thing, it's just about finding like a nice frame, and I'll just do it here on frame 80, and maybe take our camera and move it around a bit and see what I like. I like that there is some hills up here and a deep shadowy value, but valleys. But you might more like it around here, or you might more from the top down, or maybe you want it down lower angle. Really get these deep wrinkles. Yeah, looking things. So yeah, but just experiment around with your camera. Just remember that it is important what you use, and also a nice way is also just add a bit of depth of field, play around with it just for the corner, so that this is also an effect that you will see in every camera. Yeah, and especially on longer length focal length in real life, you will get a lot of bokeh, as it's called in the back. But yeah, let's try to add some material. So right now we don't have any material. We just have this wild thing. So you can do whatever you want. Actually, you can add a material here, and you can make a reddish with a lot of sheen, like a lot of roughness. Really maybe a more plasticky look, and yeah, you can go for all sort of things. You can also import materials and wrap them on your plane from, for example, Ambient CG, Polyhaven, Polygon. There's a lot of great free ones, but also a really nice paid ones. For this tutorial, I'm actually going to use a one from the Polygon add-on that I have, and I have added. There is a couple of free ones that is actually quite nice, and I know that you might not necessarily have bought or have the money to buy, so you can try these things out if you want to. You can view them here and see, okay, we have this really nice clothy thing. I think this will actually work fine for our needs. So I will import and apply the 4K to this cloth. And as you can see, it's already with the add-on applied, so this is really nice. But I think it's a bit too large, so I will go into, let me just add another frame here. So I will go into the shader editor, and I will go into this already prefabricated node tree here, and I will just up the scale to, let's say, 3. I think this is nice because it's like fine clothing. You can already see the kind of depth of field that's affecting the corners and the one here, so we will get this thing in focus right here in the middle. And I will say that I have tried this before, and I didn't really like the strength of the displacement, so I will just go down to 0.01 here. But yeah, and then maybe I will add a bit of sheen, maybe not. I'll try and see what will happen after we render it out, but this is also, maybe we'll just add a bit of sheen to it. I will then, because this is actually already kind of done, I will just go into the edit mode and smart UV projected. I'm not sure how much this actually affect the effect with the polygon, but yeah, you can, there's a lot of videos on how to UV unwrap things, but this is just a simple scene with a cloth, so we really don't need it. Not for our case anyway. So I will close this one down, and we're back to this one. So yeah, right now we have the cloth render set to 3, so this is important. And I will just change to my GPU, and I will for you guys to bit of the threshold, let's say 1000 samples, and not denoise this one. And for the performance, I will use a persistent data and usual splits. Um, yeah, and you can also do a higher contrast if you want very high, but I will also tweak this in post anyway. I will always put this into Lightroom and stuff because you just get more control over the final render, and it's just beautiful, more beautiful that way. But yeah, the light path, you can turn off the reflective and refractive caustics, and you can also turn down the light path. You don't need these many, but this is the default. I'll just keep it here. It's fine for now. And the cycles engine, and it's automatically set to this one when using the polygon, so just keep it there. And I'll just use my GPU normal setting here, maybe turn down this one so it's go faster, up the color depth. Yeah, I think this is fine. So this is a render simulation, and but I will render out a frame and show you guys what is also from the something that's also you could also see in the thumbnail, and yeah, and in the end you can see what how it will look in the final render. So let's try to render this one out. Maybe I should save this one first. Let's just call it dynamic cloth. On the desktop, it's fine, and yeah, let's try to do a render and see what it looks like. So I will get back to you when it's final. So as you can see, we have now rendered out the final image, and it's looking really beautiful. We have really, now it's not the highest render, and it only took 25 seconds. But as you can see here, we have the depth of field, and we have these sort of like really nice, really crispy details within the shadows and the highlights of the materials, and something that looks really nice, and even more nice when it's rendered out even higher quality and also like a simulations. So this is just for now, just experiment with it, and I will do more cloth simulations with vertex maps or geometry nodes or colliding stuff and whatever you guys think would be interesting. So leave a comment down below if you like this one. This was my first tutorial, so hope to have you along for the next one also. But yeah, really fun to do it, and I think this is a really beautiful render, and yeah, here you can see the final simulation afterwards. So see you guys, bye.